everyone. Lauren Culp here, publisher and CEO at CUInsight.com, and I am bringing you a 3 questions video interview today with a really special guest. Joining me is Elan's Mitch Pangretic. He's the SVP and Director of Strategic Partnerships over at Elan. We are so excited to get to chat about credit card programs, a topic which I know is on everyone's mind right now. Mitch, thank you so much for being here.
Sure. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Well, let's dive right in. You're an expert in the credit card industry. What are you hearing from credit union leaders around the country about the current economic environment?
That's a great question, Lauren, right? And the biggest concern we're hearing is around margin compression, liquidity, and card loan profitability. It's best to talk about liquidity first. Financial institutions, particularly credit unions, fund their card loans from deposits. So to keep depositors happy, they've been forced to raise rates, which raises their funding costs, right? So if you browse around the internet, you see the competitiveness of attracting longer-term deposits, right? So a 12-month CD interest rate today has risen to over 5%. Savings rates have also steadily increased towards around 5%. So attracting deposits has become expensive, and it creates a liquidity need when trying to fund these card loans, right? These credit card loans, right? The second that I was going to talk about is margin compression. With higher cost deposits, margin on card loans shrink, right? So on top of higher funding costs, competition continues to heat up as card issuers raise card member values to try to capture the members' attention. And this, frankly, compresses margins. This puts a tremendous amount of pressure on profitability. Many of the credit unions that we speak with have low fixed rate APRs on their card portfolios today, right? These rates cannot be adjusted as the Fed funds rate goes up. So as these rates go up, credit unions cannot adjust for their higher funding costs. And remember, these loans must continually fund the need for every card member's outstanding credit line, right? So it truly can be a heavy weight or burdensome on the credit union's leadership team or the card program. On top of this, credit card lending is an unsecured loan on their balance sheet. And this comes with tremendous responsibility from management and oversight perspective. And we recommend credit union leaders continue to keep a very close eye on their card loans, especially in the current economic climate.
Well, you touched briefly on liquidity, and I'm curious from your perspective, what are some ways that you would say credit unions can maybe increase liquidity during a time of inflation, such as we are in right now?
Yeah, liquidity is the biggest challenge, right, for credit unions. And my first thought is for a credit union to ask themselves, where can we reduce costs? How can we become lighter, right? Could this help us bolster liquidity? It can be as simple as looking for synergies with other credit unions or partners to create those efficiencies, right? And what I mean by this is there are ways to reduce costs and drive higher returns without having to kind of build something yourself, right? So many credit unions that we talk to turn to us as a partner, as their credit card issuing partner. And they choose us because they're looking for ways to become more efficient, right? They hire an expert to deliver a high value card program to their members. They invest less manpower. They, most importantly, invest less capital, right? And as part of that strategy, if the credit union already has a card program, they could choose to recycle the card loans by allowing us to acquire them. In essence, they convert the card assets to cash, allowing them to find an asset that has maybe a stronger, less volatile yield, right? It's a strategy that creates immediate capital through a sale, and over the long term creates synergies by removing these expenses, these credit risks, and any future investments that are required to maintain a card program, right? So in essence, a credit union would hire us to maintain the existing card loans, offer new products to their members, and they don't have to worry about the burden of running it themselves, right? So it's a very meaningful way to drive up liquidity for longer term and really hopefully improve those member products that are on the shelf.
What would you say a credit union leader should really consider when they're doing due diligence on their credit card program? I know that's such a critical part for the credit union, but to your point, what should they consider when they're doing that due diligence?
Yeah, that's tough, right? Due diligence is always kind of something that people need to pay a close eye on, right? And so what we find most is that credit union leaderships sort of have their credit card program on autopilot today. While some have made product upgrades and are slowly moving towards a digital-first strategy, they rarely look at the program's overall profitability. Some make simple calculations on profitability by looking at, let's say, a processor bill and their loss rate. But managing the profitability is so much more complex. Credit cards have three revenue lines. We have interest income, you have interchange income, and you have fee income. But these expense lines have multiple resources across the credit union, right? So you think about marketing folks, product folks, servicing folks, finance, underwriting, fraud, collections, really the list can go on and on, right? All those little expenses really add up and put a significant pressure on profitability. And unfortunately, many credit unions don't have time to even analyze the information that they find, right? So due diligence is tough, right? And so the first step that I would recommend is really setting aside a week or two a year to run a profitability analysis on the card program. Run a sensitivity that allows you to really forecast what may happen in a recession, what may happen in an inflationary environment. Run these scenarios. Running these types of scenarios will really help you understand the program's performance, right? And a few things to consider when running these scenarios. The first is kind of what's your current growth rate? Where do you want to be in the next 5 years? You know, many credit unions we talk to, they're always looking at kind of the last 5 years. You need to think about the next 5, where are you going to be in the next 5 years, right? What cost will you incur to try to reach these growth rates, right? And what activity-based costs do you have that you have today to manage the program in the future, right? And some things like products, services, marketing, what are those activity-based costs, manpower, and the actual cost for those products on the shelf, right? What pricing assumptions are you making to get to that profitability mark? What's your underwriting strategy, right? How does that tie back to your loss forecasting? Are you going to lower your thresholds to acquire more card members? How's that going to affect maybe your collection process or maybe your losses? And then the last thing I would ask yourself is exactly what am I getting from my card processor today, right? What are you paying for? What are you getting from them? And these are just kind of a few, right? There's consultants out there and analytic organizations that can really help you pull together all the elements of your card program, show you how they connect and how they impact each other. Like I mentioned, underwriting is a really critical one when you think about it from a collection perspective and loss perspective. And on top of all the profitability analysis, keep in mind that you want to be assured that your members are being served appropriately. You're providing the best products to ensure their financial wellness, right? And just when you believe you have kind of a sound strategy based on all your due diligence work, the market changes, economics change, right? So it's always evolving, and your card program's dynamic, right? So it really depends on how you design it from the beginning, staying on top of it, and where you want it to go, right? It is complex, but taking these kind of first steps to examine your profitability through due diligence is a great way to make adjustments sooner than later.
Well, Mitch, you shared so many good insights for credit union leaders. Obviously, you and the team at Elan are really the thought leaders and the experts in the credit card industry. And so a lot of good insights there. As we wrap up the conversation, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with the audience or maybe final asks of our listeners today?
I would say, feel free to reach out to us. We do a lot of work. We put together white papers on a quarterly basis about what we're seeing in the industry, ways that we can help credit unions. If you want to just kind of chat about kind of program analytics, what are our benchmarks we're using, happy to talk to you about that. You can reach us out, elanfinancialservices.com or CUpartnership.com. Either way, you'll find your way to us. So we look forward to chatting with anyone that wants to kind of learn more.
That sounds perfect. Well, we will link to that in the post here. So anyone who is watching, if you're interested in getting in touch with Elan and learning a little bit more about what they can offer to credit unions or just maybe picking their brains and getting some more insights on the credit card industry, we will have that right here in the post for you. Mitch, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. It's so great. And I know I definitely learned a thing or two from you as well.
That's great, Lauren. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you too.
You as well. And thank you to all of our listeners today for tuning in to our 3 questions video interview series. And we will be back again next time.